Hi everybody, welcome back. Glad you could tune in again. So we come to the final clause of the 6th of our membership pledges. That is our commitment to support this congregation by the spreading of the gospel to those outside the faith. Now, what are we to say about this? Well, there are a couple of different angles on spreading the gospel to those outside the faith that we might consider. The first, and perhaps most obvious in some contexts, is our support for mission work overseas particularly. And that, of course, is part of what is envisaged by this pledge. But there are commitments that are closer to home, which are in view in this connection as well. It's to do more with our personal commitment to be ready to share the gospel, to be creating a kind of context in our personal lives, in our home, in our church, where it's possible for unbelievers to hear of Christ, or perhaps to be reminded of what they heard when they were younger, and to make a new or a fresh commitment to him. And I want to give you today 3 actionable things that we all could do or strive to do more in order to create an increasingly favourable environment for that to happen. We want, so to speak, to lay the groundwork for God to do his miraculous work of transforming hard hearts and bringing people to faith in Christ. So what could we have in mind as ways to go about doing that? I want to just give you 3 pointers, which I think if we could all focus on, will be moving us significantly in a really positive direction. They are character, welcome, initiative. Let me talk about them in turn. Character. I'd like you to imagine for a moment that all of your friends who aren't Christians, all of the young people who are friends with your children who aren't Christians, all of your work colleagues who at the moment aren't Christians, they all became believers exactly like you. They all had your character. They all had your strengths, your gifts. They all had your secret sins and character weaknesses. I wonder if you could ask yourself for a moment, how would you feel about hanging out with people like that? How would you feel about people like that influencing your children through spending time with them? Are there challenges in that prospect that call to attention ways in which our lives are not personally, individually, what they ought to be? Character. It's always intriguing to me how perceptive people are, even people who aren't Christians, obviously, when it comes to assessing people's character. Many people's story of their journey to faith in Christ involves something like, well, I was in this office and there were all these people, but there was one guy who was just different. Or, yeah, my boss was a Christian and I really respected him because of his character. Or I met somebody at college or at university or at one of my sports clubs and she was a Christian and, well, she just had a different kind of attitude to life from all my other friends who weren't Christians. So many people's testimony of their journey to faith in Christ involves something like that. If our character is not different, visibly different, we not only have really no place to be seeking to persuade people to become as we are, followers of Christ, but frankly, we're unlikely to meet with much success in doing so. So, character. Second, welcome. One of the most distressing phenomena is to hear of stories when people have gone to church or they have gone to some kind of Christian community and they've not really felt welcome there. They've felt more welcome at other social occasions. In a college context, they've felt more welcome at other clubs and societies. In the broader social context, they felt more welcomed at the golf club than at the local church. And there's a challenge for us here as well. Not, obviously, to reshape our worship in the mould of the world's entertainment industry, but to make sure that our corporate hospitality, so to speak, corporate not in the sense of corporate company, but corporate community, our community hospitality is as warm as it could possibly be. What's it like for somebody who's not a Christian, visiting for a baptism perhaps, or just curious, just inquiring, just coming because their boss invited them? What's it like for them to come to church at All Saints? How many people are going to go up to them and say, hey, how you doing? I've not seen you here before. How many people are going to be genuinely interested in getting to know them? Well, there's a challenge for us, isn't it, as a church, to welcome people. And of course, we have an analogous sort of challenge as families, don't we? We've really noticed as a family here, on moving from London to Fort Worth, that there is actually a real positive difference, which we really enjoy in the propensity of our immediate neighbours here in the north edge of Fort Worth to want to get to know us, compared to what it was like back in London. Maybe that's just a local thing. I suspect it wasn't entirely local. I think London has a particular reputation for people not knowing their next door neighbours if they've lived next to each other for 30 years. But we've been pleasantly surprised by how easy it's been for us to get to know our neighbours here. And in God's providence, one or two circumstances intervene to make that easier than it might otherwise have been. But there's a real challenge there for us now. Once the house is straight, we've got all the boxes cleared away and somewhere for people to sit, where are we going to go next? Is the gentleman next door from whom I borrowed the little device to turn off the mains water supply, is that going to remain a nodding acquaintance? Or am I going to take the initiative and go and invite him over for a drink one Friday afternoon or Friday evening? The family next door, the other direction, are they going to remain, he's the kind gentleman who gave me a lawnmower because he had a spare one? Or are they going to be frequent visitors in our house, guests at our table, friends whom we get to know? Because if the latter, then that's going to give us the kind of context from which we can share the gospel, share our lives, and so seek to commend Christ to them. And that raises, of course, the third point, which is initiative. It's quite rare, though not unknown, it is quite rare for somebody to come and ask, what must I do to be saved? Very much more often, the initiative in building relationships, in taking the initiative to find ways to articulate that at least I'm a Christian, in appropriate social settings, the initiative must come from us. And we're all different, we have different characters. Some of us are more gregarious and outgoing, some of us are more shy and retiring than others. But there are ways for all of us to take the initiative, aren't there? And you all know the ways that you feel comfortable with personally. There are ways for all of us to take the initiative, not in evangelizing in a crass way, but in building the kinds of relationships within which people can get to know you as a believer. And then see what the Lord does. So, character, welcome, initiative. Hope that's helpful. The Lord bless you, and bye for now.